Thank you.
We're going to get started. Steve Hornsby is going to join us in a few minutes, but we have a quorum, so not to keep everyone on, we'll get moving. So again, I apologize. I'm new to this in terms of the procedure. Kevin found that out in the last meeting when he showed up and we had nothing to do. So I am told that I'm going to open up the select board meeting, and then Dan, you're going to open up the school committee meeting, and we'll go from there. So it is 7:02, and I'm going to open the select board meeting on Tuesday, December 13th. And we have present Kevin Snyder, Michael Toole, and myself, Meg Arthur. I think Dan, then you're up.
Yep, so I'll open up the school committee meeting with all members in attendance, 7:03.
Great.
We do not have Nick Schleicher, actually. We are not all.
Oh, sorry, trying to navigate. So we do not, Nick Schleicher is not present. Thank you, Dennis.
All right, terrific. So tonight's joint meeting is in a joint, apparently there's a joint appointment for the Permanent Building Committee, and Kevin O'Neill has put in his name. Let me give a quick background, and then Kevin, I'd love you to speak, and then we're going to open up for everyone for questions. So looking at I'm going to cheat a little, but looking at your resume. So BS in engineering and an MBA and MS in operations and project management. Lots of experience in our town. So Kevin has served on the Permanent Building Committee prior for 2 years. He was on the planning board for 4 years, school committee for 6 years, high school building committee for 4 years, capital improvement committee for 3 years, and athletic complex committee for 2 years. So Kevin, I'll let you take over and tell us why you're interested in rejoining the Permanent Building Committee, and then we can open up for any questions.
Yep. Thank you, Meg. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us last minute. We have a meeting Monday, which the building committee is going to review the community center bid results, and I think and I want to be part of that discussion and participate in that vote. So I'm glad you were all able to make it tonight. So as Meg mentioned, I've been volunteering in the town for a long time. The reason why I left the Permanent Building Committee after serving on it for a couple of years was to run for select board. And Michael Toole was the successful candidate in that election. So for the last couple of years, I've kind of not had it much to do. Of course, I've been on the planning board up until last April. But as you know, there was a resignation from the Permanent Building Committee, and given that I had already had experience with it for a couple of years, and my experience on the high school building committee, which the process is very similar as it was with the high school building project, and any project for that matter. So all of the phases that they have gone through with the town hall and the community center, I'm very familiar with all of the steps in the process and where we are today. So going forward, we're basically, the building committee is basically working on the final bid package, and hopefully very soon beginning of construction. So it won't take me long to get caught up, and you know, I'm looking forward to serving on that building committee again. Now we know the two major projects going on, but when I was on the Permanent Building Committee, the school department was going through the window and door project through the state reimbursement program. And I remember advising around that to move forward with it, even though it was a $4 million impact to the town. The state was kicking in the other $4 million. And I kind of advised to move forward without any kind of a discussion around a debt exclusion, because I knew that if you waited too long, you wouldn't be able to qualify for that state reimbursement. So that was successful. I was part of the two buildings, the site selection process and the feasibility study and the programming and space needs process. So I'm familiar with, you know, why the buildings are the size they are and what's going to be done in them and what the needs are and requirements. I don't know if you recall, but originally the project was going to be on Elm Street, the corner of Elm and Cross Street. And I was actually the one that kind of stuck my neck out a little bit and indicated that there was a lot of risk and concern around that project not being properly cleaned up by the EPA, and kind of advised at least 2 other members of the building committee at the time to vote against that moving forward with that site. And I think at this point we have 2 really good sites, 2 good plans, and I think a great decision with that. So I can utilize my planning board experience as well when it comes to the permitting process and special permits going forward. There'll be other projects in the town, of course, as we move forward once these 2 projects get completed, and of course, experience on the capital improvement committee will come in handy, because as I think probably a lot of you have already served on the capital improvement committee, the process of that as far as putting requests in and building a long-term capital plan. So being on the building committee, I'm sure that'll be part of the the integration with the town as well, as we work on perhaps smaller projects in the future. So that's about it. Any questions from the group?
Yeah, I'm going to open it up for anyone. Just jump right in. You don't have to raise
Meg,
your.
you mind if I start here?
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna preface this by saying that this is nothing to do with Kevin. I actually think Kevin is a fantastic candidate for this. The fact that you stuck your neck out and voted against the Street site is all I need to know about that, because that was a fool's paradise. I've known Kevin for quite a while. I actually took his place on the school committee. I know him to be a conscientious, very civic-minded person. I think he's an extremely intelligent person, and this is not a reflection on his candidacy. However, I'm really unhappy with the process we went through to get here. And for what it's worth, I'm going to be abstaining from any vote that we do take tonight. I believe Kevin's an extremely good candidate, but I believe much more strongly that this process was not the way to go about this application. It seems rushed to me. We found out about it kind of last second, and Maggie, by your own admission, said that there was kind of a misunderstanding about how this process was supposed to go. This should be a process where we actually vet the candidates. We're able to sit down and talk to them. We should at least try and recruit multiple candidates. And I get it. I get the town is generally apathetic. I do understand that. But this, in my opinion, this is kind of part of the problem, right? Is that we always do these things in the dark and nobody really knows about it. And I get we posted it, but we didn't post it for very long, quite frankly. And, again, to me, this is not about the candidate we're looking at right now, but this is about the process. I could not be less happy with how this process went, quite frankly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I completely hear you. Our struggles are real in terms of finding. We just had another resignation just came through tonight on another committee. We don't have the luxury of, I get it. Yes, the process can be cleaned up and we're learning it. We get volunteers that are coming in, even I'll say myself, that doesn't know the full process. And so we have to learn it as we go. But the bigger issue is when we have decent candidates, sometimes we do have to push through and make sure that we can not lose someone because we're so worried about the actual process itself. If we had, and I couldn't agree with you more, if we had 10 people lined up or 5 people lined up, absolutely the process needs to be sitting down and vetting every single person. We happen to have a candidate who's been on the committee, the only person that's put their hat in the ring. Yes, we can spend more time marketing this and we can put the word out more. We had a sort of an abrupt resignation from the chair. So we're sort of in a precarious position of someone who is willing and wanting to jump in, and we've got work to do. So if again, I appreciate your comments, but that's sort of where we're at.
Yeah, the thing is, and I understand that, but I disagree with kind of the logic, I guess. First of all, I would say we're under no obligation to appoint somebody just because they apply, right? Our task is supposed to be to find the best applicant possible. And it's entirely possible that somebody is the only applicant and they're just not qualified, quite frankly. And so the idea that we would meet to a point rather than actually vet the candidate and go through the process and then go back to our respective boards and discuss how we feel about this candidate and say, yes, we think this person is a good candidate for our objectives, et cetera, and then get back together and say, okay, yep, how do we all vote on this? This candidate, is this the candidate we want to do, et cetera? That's how it should run. And The second thing I disagree with is, I think most of us probably know Kevin, but you can't assume that. There may be people here who do not know him at all. And so they don't know that he's a good candidate, and to give them 5 minutes to talk to him and say, yeah, that sounds like the guy, I guess. I mean, who knows, I mean,
Right.
yeah, Kevin's been on a ton of boards and everything, but, and again, I know this not to be true of Kevin, but, in the vetting process, you could go back to somebody on that board and they'd be like, yeah, he was constantly a problem on the board. I don't love the way that we're rushing through this.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but again, this meeting is about, we can question and have that vetting process right here and now in an open forum. And then we can decide we might not want to take a vote tonight. It doesn't say we have to vote, but that's what tonight is for to ask questions, to be thoughtful about making sure that he is the right candidate.
When did we originally post for this?
Mike, you're on mute.
So on November 22nd, all the positions were posted, advertised in the paper, put on local cable, put on the town bulletin board, put on the town website.
So we posted on the 22nd, and you guys were originally looking to appoint him on the 30th. So we're talking about 7 days, and within that time frame, we had Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving weekend. And I mean, we're talking about a 6-day window, and I assume you followed open meeting law and posted your agenda 2 days before the 30th. So now we're going back to the 28th. I mean, we had this open for 4 or 5 days at most. That's not a lot of time. I don't understand what we're doing here. And again, I think Kevin's a great candidate. And if there were 5 other people here, and I don't know that we'll get anybody. We may go out there for 2 months and never get anybody. And shame on the town. Right? And I get it. I get there's like a time factor here, but I just want to be really, really, I want to strongly emphasize how much I don't like how this process went at all. And the assumption that tonight we're all going to come here and appoint the person that
But again, that's not the whole purpose of this meeting, is to have that vetting process. We're not going to invite all the candidates at once and interview them all at once. So if we choose as 2 boards or 2 committees not to vote tonight, we have that ability. So
I get it. I think we disagree on
Yeah.
whether this process went correctly or not. I think again, it's we can vet him tonight, and I understand that, and quite honestly, I've known Kevin long enough. I don't really need to vet him that much, but again, the process was not done correctly, and just moving forward, because we're like, we should just do it anyways. I don't agree. That's my opinion, and I'll leave it at that. Just not the purpose of the meeting isn't to discuss the process. I get that, but I just wanted to put it out there so people understood where I was coming from.
Can I just ask a question? And Mike, maybe this is something you can answer. So when both of us, our committees have to appoint somebody, is it possible for us to also publicize the open seat? Because we definitely have a different target audience.
Yeah, the more the better.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it, right? If we had known earlier, we could have publicized as well. So I think it just goes back to, something I've been trying to do for a long time, and that's open communication between the 2 boards. Just because we have different populations that we target. So I think that definitely would have been helpful. But I mean, with that said, I've been lucky enough to work with Kevin on a number of projects. And I don't want to see these 2 projects be stalled at all. So I'm fully prepared. I've worked alongside Kevin, so I'm fully prepared to be able to vote to have him continue and get these projects started. It's been a long time.
I did have one question I wanted to ask, and this isn't, I've known, as everyone's mentioned, I've known Kevin a long time as well. So I know you left PBC before, so I guess my question is, is your thoughts to try and see these 2 projects, through completion, or is there something else that, you have planned that might get in the way of that?
No, none, Dan. I have no aspirations to do anything else. I actually have also put my name in to be appointed to the planning board because they have a vacancy right now as well. So those two boards will keep me more than busy. The reason why I resigned before, I don't know if you were on yet, but I was preparing to run for select board, and at the time I didn't know there'd be any opposition, and my hope was to serve on that committee and to not have any kind of a perceived conflict between the projects going on under the building committee and serving on the select board, because sometimes you have a vote on both in two different areas. The perception could be that you have some kind of a vested interest in the outcome. So I didn't want that perception to cloud anything.
Okay.
So as it turned out, I wouldn't have done that in retrospect, because if you remember with 2020 with COVID, that election was postponed until the end of June. So about 9 months I had nothing to do, but and then of course I got on the planning board, and I had mentioned to Dinah shortly after that if she had any vacancy to consider me, and of course I didn't have any vacancy until ironically she resigned. So
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the select board?
Madam Chair, I would like to respond to Dinesh's comments. I want to point out that I had put in my formal application for this on November 16th via email. So I don't think it was posted as late as November 30th, because I remember referencing it on the website before submitting my application, which is at this point almost a month ago.
Kevin, I don't think that this was anything to do with you doing anything wrong or anything like that. That being said, I know it was the 11/22, and I knew the answer to the question before I asked it, but this is nothing to do with you, Kevin. Again, please don't take this personally. I think you're an extremely qualified candidate. I think we're lucky to have you, quite frankly.
I think you're right. So let's move on with this before I change my mind.
So, if I may, Madam Chair, I just want to speak, obviously, for Kevin. I've known him for a few years now, and the praises that he's sung on the committees that he served has just been really, I think we are lucky to have a qualified candidate for this. Putting aside anything to do with the process, I think the candidate is the right choice, and I would support that. And with that being said, I'd like to make a motion, if there's no more discussion, to nominate Kevin O'Neill for the Permanent Building Committee opening or appointment. Which position is this, Mike Keenitz?
It's an appointment to the Permanent Building Committee member.
Yeah, but is it a specific seat? Because it's got to be a specific seat. I think it might be because we're both nominated.
Mike, you're on mute. Michael and Mike.
It's a regular member appointment.
It is a regular member appointment. I'd like to make a motion to approve Kevin O'Neill as a member of the Permanent Building Committee.
Second.
Would the select board like to take a vote? I'll have to do it on, I guess we're online. So,
Yeah, do roll call.
yep, I'm going to do roll call. Michael Toole,
Aye.
Steve Hornsby.
I'll vote, but I had a question before that. So,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Do you want to?
is this the only open seat? There's only
Yeah.
one open seat.
Yes.
Okay. I guess. Aye.
Kevin Snyder.
Aye.
I too am a yes. I'll turn it over to Dan.
I would entertain a motion to approve Kevin O'Neill as a member of the Permanent Building Committee.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Mrs. Cohen,
Yes.
Mrs. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Sabas,
Abstain.
Mr. Sheedy's a yes.
Great. Well, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
And we look forward to hearing good things coming out and the building behind you to be built
you bet. And you're
on time.
You're all very welcome. One question though, I'm curious of the term of the appointment, because I know it's needs to be through the end of the person who just resigns term, so I don't know if Mike knows that.
I don't know that off the top of my head, Kevin. I'll let you know.
Okay. I might have to get reappointed sometime soon, that's why I ask. Very good. All right. Madam Chair, you have the chairman of the building committee.
Yes. Mr. Slattery?
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't make it. I went to the middle school after I had to meet with the water commissioners at 6 o'clock. And I guess my governmental duties, I didn't know that you were meeting remote. I wanted to be there to support Kevin, and I guess I got in on the tail end, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. All right, I think that concludes, oh, so we have to actually close the meeting. It is 7:23, and I'd like to make a motion to close the select board meeting.
Second, so moved.
Second.
And,
All right. Michael Toole,
aye.
Kevin Snyder,
Yes.
Steve Hornsby,
Aye.
and I too am an aye.
Entertain a motion to close the school committee meeting 7:23.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor, Mrs. Gallagher,
yes.
Mr. Savas,
Aye.
Mrs. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Sheedy is a yes.
Terrific. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a
Merry
great
Christmas,
night.
everyone.
Congratulations,
Merry
Kevin.
Christmas.
Have a good night.
Congrats, Kevin.
Bye.